for change, Dropping Gems Tuesday. Welcome back to the aftermath. We are talking about fundraising. We are in segments of fundraising, but we're now talking about aftermath. I educated you on how to do fundraising. And then last week I was talking about how you build community and how you need to start a little bit in advance. So that way you can talk to your partner, to build that community around the sense of your event. And doing the media outlets and all of those good things that you need to do, but making sure that, you stand on growing the word amongst your partners, amongst different people. And last time I was just freestyling because it was so close to the event, and I wanted to make sure that I express myself and let you know exactly what it is that you need to know. Right then and there, without any buffering or anything, no filtering, just me communicating and telling you what you need to know. So I hope that you felt like I dropped you some gems that's going to benefit you and that's going to help you, okay? All right. So I was just freestyling and stuff, right? So now we're going to talk about couple of things that really do matter, right? So we've discussed the fundraising integrity, and we talked about telling them where this might go and the money and how you're supporting us, how you're helping us. I'm going to be launching something where people could donate directly to, supporting students, because students is a big development piece. People like to support students. People feel like students need the most support. So this is something that is really, unique, elite, and different from the rest, in that we have a special department that's dedicated to that individuals can donate to. That's important. All of these things are big review gems, big review key points that you have to pay attention to all the time, okay? So thank you for joining Droppin Gems and continuing to join Droppin Gems. And I hope that you're using this information to push forward, because you know how I like to review stuff, and you know how I like to call you out, because I am Tanya Ripley. This is the business clinician perspective of business. And, it's not traditionally from an MBA, and it's not traditionally from somebody who runs a company. These are all things that I learned how to do amongst me learning and moving through the business. And then I always pay attention to the psychological perspectives of how these things make me feel, how these things make me connect to my spirituality, how these things make me feel when I'm moving through them, right? Because I do believe that I'm ordained in my steps. So every time I'm thinking about any steps that cause more strategic and more research and different things like that, I'm praying the whole way through. So it's very important for you to just be abreast with that, right? All right. So the biggest thing in the aftermath is that cash discipline still matters. So just because you're getting a whole bunch of cash, just because people are giving you money, right, it doesn't mean that you could just blow a bag, because that's not the case. And we all know that wouldn't be right, because you have to be responsible. You have to be responsible to the money that you receive, and you have to be honest with the money that you receive, where exactly it is going, okay? A common misconception in fundraising is that it means that you spend the money freely. And I want to hone in on that, because a lot of people think that the money that is raised is being spent freely or being put in somebody's pocket. Okay. If you're fundraising with integrity, this is not the case. This is never the case. The reality of it is that the money must last until the next milestone of the next funding round. Jim, all right? The money must last the next milestone or the next funding round. All right. So when the money needs to last that long, right, you really don't have no cash if you just fundraising and you just pay for an event, right? And so, or you just fundraising and you just talk to those people that about the fundraising that you just talked to, instead of building your community to have more funds to make it last. But you should do something like annually, you know. You shouldn't do it more than that, because remember we were talking about like how you shouldn't ask all the time. Like people get tired of you asking. But when you do ask, you need to be boom, 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 ready, right? And all of these components and all of these things need to be in place, okay? You have to track your burn rate. So in finances, when we were talking last year in the finance stuff and accounting and books, you know, we didn't mention burn rate. Burn rate is the monthly spending, right? So the biggest thing with nonprofits is that it can wax and wane. And I have like my seasons. Remember we talked about that, Jen, right? So I have my seasons where my money is flowing in. I have my seasons when I'm waiting for things to come in. I have my seasons when I'm down. I have my seasons when I'm up, right? So, my monthly burn rate, like we talked about before, kind of varies and it's kind of different. I have sometimes in this part of the year, I have an influx of things that I have to pay, whether it be like insurance or renewal applications for different things, because it's time for change birthday, right? So I'm in the process of paying for this and paying for that, which is a lot of different things that I'm paying for that are not tangible, that people can't see, like books or this or that, you know. So I'm paying for a lot of those different things, and that makes a big difference in my budget, you know, and my burn down rate, because I'm burning down right now because we're getting ready for summer and we're getting ready for fall, right? The seasons that are more lucrative and productive for time for change. But because I am aware of those things, I'm prepared to be in hibernation mode. Remember, I talked about that as well. See, all Droppin' Gems is just like, you know, you keep talking about things, you talk about things, but then they layer up and they all connected to each other. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, if it sounds like I'm saying something foreign, please go back to the videos so that you can have a better understanding of what it is that I'm talking about, because it's very helpful to kind of see. Sorry, our lash just, it's very helpful to kind of see those things, right? I mean, hear those things that are familiar in these videos, because I'm layering without you even knowing it. So if you catch in this video and you didn't catch the one that's connected to it, what I'm saying might not make sense. So please make sure that you're watching the show, right, and keeping up with those types of things. So monthly spending, right, is related to your seasons if your business, because you're already looking at your physical year that we talked about and how those seasons are aligned with the monthly revenue or the monthly spend down that you're spending. So sometimes you're going to spend more than what you make, and sometimes you're going to make more than what you spend. In those times, you need to be moving stuff over into a savings account, making sure that you are saving for taxes, not that you traditionally would do that, right? Making sure that you putting those things in place. Maintaining a runway, months of cash left. So if we were to raise way more money than what we traditionally do, or whatever you raise, it should be, and if it's on your burn rate, right, or in your burn rate, you should be having it broken across your monthly budgets of how much you're going to be able to burn down from the actual fundraising funds. Gem, right? So let me say that again. So your fundraising should be like an annual thing, right? And it should be an annual thing but you should be mindful of your monthly burn rate, and a percentage of your fundraising should go across the actual burn rate, okay? Because even though I'm paying for books or whatever the case may be, I'm going to be paying significantly for books. I'm going to be paying significantly for uniforms. I'm going to be paying significantly for whatever is going to come up. I'm going to be paying for operations. It might be more important for the money to go to the lease versus it going to anything else. It might be important to go to these places. So it's very important for you to pay attention to, your burn rate, but making sure that it's applicable to the stuff that you just got to pay monthly anyway to operate, right? Because you have some things, like I told you, in seasons that in flux, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be in your monthly burn rate in the following month or the following season. So you have to be mindful of those things so that the fundraising makes sense. Okay, so cash discipline matters. Okay, so the aftermath of actually fundraising is not you freely doing whatever you want with the money, but you actually paying attention to what it is with the money and your burn as it relates to your burn rate. All right, so let me talk a little bit about what I just mentioned too, the gym, the maintained runway, months of cash left. Months of cash left, right? So when you calculate your burn rate, your monthly rate that you burn anyway, and you find out your percentage of what it is you're going to put in your burn rate on a monthly basis as it relates to the annual fundraising that you did, you have a runway of how many months you have left. Because you might have months left, it might be more than the annually that you raised. Okay? This is a gem, but this is also something that you might want to rewind and write down because it's a very difficult thing to conceptualize. Sometimes you have to write and be visual and write this down so that you could see. Okay? So your burn rate is how much money you spending anyway, right? Whatever you fundraising is annually going to go into the burn rate, a percentage of whatever it is that you decide to maintain a runway of cash flow, to see what the months are. How many months that you have left in this cash. You might spend it all down. Usually nonprofits spend it all down. The goal is to spend it all down before your fiscal year ends. So whatever you decided what your fiscal year is going to be, you see how it's very important because it's even coming up now. So you have to decide how much or what is important in your seasons of your business. You're figuring that out. You're also figuring out your burn rate on a monthly basis and how much you spend down monthly. Now, you are now accountable to investors. So when you do take money, right? So the aftermath in that is that when you do take money, you're accountable to the investors. So everyone that came to my gala, everyone that was in the charity event, I'm responsible for telling them exactly where their money went to and why and what we're planning on doing with it. And we're so thankful for them to have done so, right? So you have to make sure that you are accountable to investors and telling them afterwards what it is that you need to do. Running the company changes because investors expect regular updates, clear progress of milestones, responsible financial management. All right. Regular updates, clear progress on milestones, and responsible financial management. A lot of people feel safe donating to Time for Change because we have to have an outside CPA audit us. So because we have to have that, I could never do anything or mishandle with the funds because I have to have somebody else to check me off that doesn't know me to say that we did what we were supposed to do. So a lot of people feel safe, the investors, especially the government and all of that, they feel safe with giving me funds because I have, an annual audit that I pay for that's on the outside. That's not in the inside. So it's not my accountant that they're looking at. Okay. So you have to just have a common courtesy to the investors after you're accountable, like monthly investor update quarterly board meetings is very important. So when you're in a board or when you're a part of a board, you're making sure that you're updating the investors about what it is that's going on. Okay. So updates usually include revenue growth, customer matrices, products, progress, hiring updates, and challenges and risk. Okay. Revenue growth, customer matrix, right? Whatever your matrix is the person doing well, person not doing well, is the students doing well, how well did this class do, did everybody graduate, did everybody pass their tests, things like that. Product progress. So if you sell any products, if you're selling hair or you're selling, food or whatever it is that you're selling, right? How well is it doing? So product progress, because especially, or if you made a drink or whatever. So it's being mindful that they're wanting to know that progress. Hiring updates. So if you're hiring people, you're spending money. So if you're hiring people, you're spending money. So they want to know, like, what is it about, why are you hiring this person? And like, what's the cost of this person? And is it, and how much revenue is it going to bring you in the company? Like, are you doing what you need to do? Challenges and risks is always important, even though it's not the prettiest to see on paper. It's very important for you to have that there, because the investors that really they want to see the reality of the struggle, right? And the reality of what it takes. Tell my video girl, we gonna tell her right now, flash that losses sheet again. Flash that, yes. Okay, so it is a risk, right? It's not a risk to give me money because you know directly what it's going to. It's a challenge, though. We have challenges that are really difficult because while we're paying for that, we're trying to pay everything else. We're trying to pay for the lease. We're trying to pay for that. So I got to make sure that I spell that out. So if an investor that bought books and I'm not in school right now with these students, they won't be so upset if I pay for the lease to still, occupy and still hold on to the actual commission license that I receive, right? Because I need a space. So, I would have to explain that. Fundraising often changes who influences companies' decisions as well. So possible changes includes like a board of directors established, investor voting rights, approval requirements for major activities. A lot of people would like to see different board of directors, different people who are going to contribute to the work, right, that's done. Examples of decisions require board approval. So large spending, right? Executive hires, so people who are in high, ups, you have to pay them more. So like, what kind of person are you looking for? How much money are you willing to spend? Even when you're selling the company, it's very important, but we're not talking about that. Not now. New funding rounds. So you still run the company, but with shared governance, right? Of individuals who have invested in you. You want to make sure that when you're sending off these emails to them, that you're establishing a platform for them to make recommendations to you, because you need to be open to other individuals actually giving you that financial advice or giving you that programmatic idea or giving you, a new hospital for you to talk to, or giving you, like I could keep going on and on and on. Whatever your challenge is, and the struggles is making sure that you are good, right? You are good. Let's see. So focus on milestone execution. All right. So investors fund you based on a story about what the company will achieve. Jim. So what the company will achieve, right? So typical milestones is like product launches, revenue targets, market expansion, customer growth, technology development, anything that you want to achieve moving forward, right? You want to make sure that you focus on that, because the execution of that means that it's like, yay, we did this together. We donated and then this happened, right? So making sure that you have that effect amongst your investors, making sure that you're talking to them, right? So your job becomes turning capital into measurable progress. But as we all know, that nonprofit is definitely, and in for-profit, because we've talked about it, is definitely turning your capital into measurable progress. In every business, you are turning it into measurable progress. But the idea is that you're turning it into measurable progress that your investors can see in the aftermath of them donating to you. Jim. So, right? So making sure that you have all of these measures, but making sure that you can say, like, this is what it is, and this is how it needs to be. All right. Hiring becomes a strategic priority. So many companies raise money primarily to build a team. Usually nonprofits are not in that way, but sometimes other for-profits or whatever, they're raising money to build a team. You have different programs in Time for Change, so to speak, because I'll give an example that I would love to have more revenue to support that position, right? But it just doesn't happen. So the revenue from that is like, if I fundraise, it's like you're helping me retain what I've already had. So I'm already fronting the cost for the employee to be here because of the mission, because of why it matters, right? But like in for-profits or other companies, you're not doing that. You're just hiring and you're trying to expand, and you want capital to kind of like expand. So it's a little bit different. But hiring should always be deliberate, right? So you should always make a decision deliberately and say, this is what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and why I need this person. All right. So, and whether it has to be related to the goal that is related to the company. So whether it's you engineering a product and you need a specialist, or whether it's sales and marketing and you need a content creator to be able to keep up with what you're doing, or whether it's operations, like it's kind of shaky, I need some support right here at top because I need to have this flushed out. Or like finances, right? I don't know finances. I had to hire an accountant, even though I was doing pretty well for 8 years. But when I got to 8, I was like, I need somebody else that could develop these reports or to do these things that I can't do, right? Or I can do, but I want to make sure that I do it correctly because then I have an outside auditor, right? So I want to be accountable. I remove the task for myself because I want to be accountable in an agency format, not in a person format. And I talked about that a lot in the fundraiser too, that I am one person, and the community has got to help me. So see, that's like, me pulling on people that can talk about the different things that I couldn't talk about because, it just is what it is. That's not what I do. I am a clinician, and I'm going to give you the clinician's perspective of business. That's here. And then as a clinician at Time for Change, I'm going to give you all of the psychoanalytical theory that you need to know. I'm going to tell you how to work with the trauma-informed populations. I'm going to tell you how, you could use this treatment modality with this particular diagnosis. That's my brain, right? That's my brain. But that's not books and financing and maintaining and making sure that I know the burn rate and all of that stuff. No, I'm leading with passion, right? And sometimes that gets in the way. So you have to make sure that you're paying attention to that as well. All right. So the key rule is to hire, right, for the next stage. So if you feel like you're in the next stage, you need to hire for that, not the ultimate stage, right? So like the way how I went about in hiring practices, and we'll talk more, is, kind of a tree effect. So I was the tree, I was the stump, but I was like, I can't do this part. Let me get this branch to this person. I can't do this part no more. Let me get this branch to that person. I can't do this no more, right? So again, the clinician's perspective of business. So just think of a tree, the tree of life, that has all of those branches. And when you start to grow those branches, you want to get somebody who really will take you to the next level, or who can do the work that you already envision that you need them to do for you, because you have got to focus on the operations, or focus on what it is and the growth of the company. However the money is coming in, that's what you need to focus on. All right. Now, over hiring can damage your runway. So remember, we talked about the runway was the months left, right, of the burn rate. So if you overhire, you can mess it up. You could damage your runway and it not be as successful as getting you to the next fiscal year for you to fundraise, right? So you want to make sure that you're being strategic in your hiring, and you're looking ahead, and you are identifying things that, you need another person to do versus it being you, because you need and want is two different things, okay? Need and want is two different things, all right? So I am definitely, so when you go down to, let me see. So you have to keep in mind that, like, financial systems become really, really essential, right? And after fundraising, informal bookkeeping is just isn't enough. And I know, because now I have a whole nother person, so it just isn't enough. I knew I was doing a charity gala. I knew I was going to have to talk about certain things, but I didn't know what those certain things was going to entail, right? So I had to do a little bit more focus on the actual fundraising stuff. So when you are in business and you plan to do fundraising, you need to have accountant essentials, such as like accounting software. So don't just be doing your accounting in your spreadsheet and all of that stuff. I showed you how to do it, but you might need like QuickBooks. You might need, some other accountant. I use that, but you might need some other accounting system that an accountant is certified to support you with. Monthly financial reports is always going to be necessary, and they can generate that from out of that, right? So budget planning, right? And planning around your fundraising. So it's so important for you to identify when a donation is made, and then and sending out the letter, and then looking at what it looks like, right? What it looks like where does this go, okay? Expense approval systems need to be in place, because you can't just, say, okay, I'm gonna just buy this, or okay, I'm gonna just buy that. Even though I do it all the time, because I always expect to raise funds I always expect to go into debt for time for change. But now that I have other people's money that I'm accountable for, I won't be able to do that, because I'm gonna have to make sure that, all right, this is not just time for change money coming in and out. This is other people, other investors. Their stuff is coming out. What is their money going to go to? And then forecast models, right? So forecasting, we talked a little bit about that when we were talking about seasons, and we were talking about fiscal year. So like forecasting and seeing like, when is this a good time to do this? When is it a good time to do that? Investors expect clear financial visibility. They want to see. They want to see exactly what your money goes to, and exactly what their money is going to be going to. So you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. You have to show them that. And you have to use the capital strategically, all right? The money should accelerate value creation and not just operations. I'm going to say that again. Jim, The money should accelerate value creation, not just operations. Value creation, not just operations. Yeah. So, aftermath part 3. All right. So, we're going to talk about that in our next segment. I just would like to thank you so much in coming past Dropping Gems every other Tuesday at 6 p.m. I could not be more happy to educate you on these things and learn these things with you, because with my lived experience and giving you this advice as a change agent here at Time for Change, you have come into this agency, right? You have come to me on my YouTube videos to kind of figure out exactly what it is that you need to do differently, exactly what it is that you want to do differently, and I'm just here to help. I would like to thank you for listening to the clinician's perspective of business every other Tuesday at 6 p.m. Dropping Gems. Please like, subscribe, and even share that you are learning information that you wouldn't have traditionally known if you were not following Tanya Ridley here at Time for Change Consulting. I appreciate you so much, and I look forward to continuing to educate you and working on your entrepreneur life that you need to be able to understand. I hope that I'm helping you, and I look forward to continuance. All right? You all have a wonderful day.